At this time, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce a woman, an educator, a humanitarian, an administrator, a professor, a scholar, board of trustee member, a person who has mastered every aspect of an academic and university environment, and has not only mastered every aspect of that university environment, but has been recognized roundly for that mastery. Starting in 1994, when she first arrived at Johnson C. Smith University, prior to that time, she was serving as a full professor at Georgia Tech, and then she joined the Board of Trustees at Johnson C. Smith University. She was asked by the Board of Trustees to lead the institution at a time where its future was uncertain. And upon her arrival in August of 1994, although she began in spring of '94, she saw a young man leading rallies and protests to welcome her, to share with her what I felt were the concerns of the institution. Little did I know, I didn't have much of an understanding at all about what an institution and what the concerns were. She did not kick me out of the university. She did not call my parents and tell them to come and pick me up. What she did was to kindly bring me into her office. I shouldn't say kindly either. She sat me down and spoke directly, frankly, and honestly with me about a university, about the monies and the mechanics of a university, about what faculty members are expected to do, what scholars are expected to do, what I am expected to do as a student, and most importantly, what she not only expected to do, but did do as a university president. 14 years later, in her last year, she brought me back as an associate vice president for academic affairs. And I also served as an associate professor of English, and she asked me to sit and to learn all I could about a university environment. She gave me an opportunity to begin on the pathway that has eventually led me to where I am now, as the 7th president of Tuskegee University. And I also had the pleasure and the honor of writing her 14-year history, and in that history, I chronicle a 14-year period filled with accomplishments that are just simply too many to name at this time. From fundraising, to administration, to improving infrastructure, technology, awards and accolades that is just simply too numerous to name at this point. It is not only my pleasure, not only my honor, but indeed, in all humility, it is my extreme and deep pleasure to welcome not only my friend, my mentor, colleague, and amongst everyone in this chapel and within my voice, a fellow colleague and peer as president, Dr. Dorothy Yancy. Please give her a round of applause.
Well, it's not often you get an introduction like that. Good morning. To Dr. Brian Johnson, President of the University, Ms. Johnson, Chairman, Retired Major General Charles Williams, members of the Board of Trustees who may or may not be here, platform guests, faculty, staff, students, community supporters, friends, and of course the mighty graduating class of 2014. Good morning. This is a special day for all of you and a special day for me. It is not often one can brag about a former student mentee becoming a college president. However, in recent weeks, I've hit the lottery. 3 of my mentees have risen to this lofty position. I met Dr. Johnson 20 years ago in '94 when I became president of Johnson C. Smith University. He was a junior majoring in English and full of energy, and I got to know him and several other students when they led protest rallies on the campus, and I had to sit him on the floor and explain the facts of life to him. And I did. And I put him on the floor because the room was a little too small for all of them to sit in the chair. Today, I stand before you very nervous as I present this commencement address. I hate to admit it, but I slept through my commencement at Johnson C. Smith in 1964. The speaker was probably good. He was the first African American to lead the office that later became HUD. However, on that day, I was there to get my degree, not hear a speech. Plus, I had pulled my first all-nighter celebrating my accomplishment. So I'm sure many of you feel the same way this morning. I was a silly little 20-year-old. I was born in rural Cherokee County, Alabama, and attended a Rosenwald school as a result of the friendship between Mr. Booker T. Washington and Mr. Julius Rosenwald, and then segregated Hatcher High School in Center, Alabama. There were 17 students in my graduating class. Yes, 17. I graduated valedictorian and was admitted to Johnson C. Smith University with a scholarship on probation. Because, that's right, sounds like oxymoron, because Hatcher High School was not accredited. I have not come this morning with a highfalutin kind of a speech. It's sort of a country down home speech. On this morning, I come to tell you the story and impact of Mrs. Annie Ruth Evans Cunningham. I want you to remember that name. She was born April 17, 1924 in Lafayette, Alabama, and she passed last summer. After a lifetime of teaching in Cherokee and Calhoun County schools, she enrolled here at Tuskegee at age 16 after graduating from Lafayette High School with honors. Later, she became a teacher and transformed a rural community in Cherokee County located in northeast Alabama on the Coosa River. She entered our lives in the 1950s, and we were grateful. In the entire county, there were only 400 black children of school age. Yet her efforts and her commitment to education transformed country girls into sophisticated women. She brought her Tuskegee attitude, that Tuskegee swagger she told us about, of confidence and high esteem. Now, you ladies know what I'm talking about, to Center, Alabama, and my gosh, did she make a difference. She was good looking. Her hair was all together. She had the seams in the back of her stockings perfectly straight. Her lipstick was always precise. She had a sass in her walk, and she wore her clothes just so, meaning the skirts and the tops fit. Her skirts and dresses were the right length. Her hems hung evenly in the front and the back. There was no dipping, ladies. Yes, could she dress. And on top of that, she was brilliant. When she walked in a room, she was in charge, and she could electrify an audience. She was energetic and a passionate and enthusiastic teacher who loved her students and believed in their self-worth when all around them reeked the stench of poverty, segregation, and a view that none of them were going to amount to very much. As a transformational leader, she believed that we could achieve, and she made us feel inspired, and most of all, she made us feel empowered. We trusted her, we respected her, and we tried to emulate her and internalize her ideas and values. She taught home economics, science, and life skills. We all wanted to be like her. Yes, we wanted to be like Annie Ruth Evans Cunningham, not Michael Jordan or Beyonce or Mary Blige. She was our role model, Miss Tuskegee, we called her. Mr. President, I looked at your list of notable graduates and I did not find her name. Yet I maintain that the Annie Ruth Cunninghams of this world are the graduates who have made their mark in communities and spread the Tuskegee spirit. She is an example of the unknown, unnamed men and women who attracted students to this great university because of the examples that they set in their communities and the lives that they led. We saw in her what we could become if we worked hard. We learned that we could come here to Tuskegee or matriculate at some other college. We watched her go every summer to Michigan State University to work on her graduate degree. And we bask in pride and satisfaction when she received her master's degree in human relation and child development in the 50s. We knew we could go to college and to graduate school because she did so, and she did. Mr. President, examples are dangerous teachers. She made a group of country black children whose houses were located on dirt roads in the hills of North Alabama believe that education was indeed the great equalizer. She came to the county with her husband, Wilbur Cunningham, who was also a fastidious dresser, trained in agriculture and science, and a George Washington Carver student, something he never let us forget. He claimed he knew science because he had been taught by the best scientists in the United States and the world. She was the home economics teacher and the advisor to the senior class and the new homemakers of America, the little home economics club. The white girls were called future homemakers of America, and we were new, and we always asked her, why were we new? And they were future. She was no nonsense and refused to be bogged down with such trivial discussions. How did she transform the community? She taught us soft skills. She taught us social graces. She taught us how to walk, talk, and present ourselves to the public. She taught science and was a taskmaster. She was not a great cook, but she taught us how to prepare balanced meals. She taught the science of what they called dovetailing in those days. Now you call it multitasking. I can do two or three or four things at one time because she taught me how to do that. You planned meals so that everything was complete and finished at the same time. She threw teenage school parties in a little tiny school auditorium, and we made canopies and hors d'oeuvres under her supervision. There would be no party. There could be no party without the proper canopies. Plus, the canopies had to be placed appropriately on the tables with white cloths and flowers. She taught us how to set the table with lots of silverware, work from the left and right when eating, and always know where the butter plate and the glasses are supposed to go. I get angry to this day when folk take my butter plate. You know how you go to these banquets and these sophisticated people don't know what they're doing. She even planned and produced a cotillion for the high school girls where we dressed in long white formals and our fathers in dark suits, and we were presented to Center Society, that's the name of the town, all 200 people. My father and I practiced the two steps for weeks. To say that that was high cotton for a bunch of country girls is an understatement. We moved from simplicity patterns to McCall patterns and then to Vogue patterns, and later that was the top of the line. We made our clothes. She put us in her car and took us to state conventions where we competed in sewing, public speaking, and talent. I remember performing to Harry Belafonte's Day-O Banana Boat song and doing her version of the riverboat dance right here at Tuskegee on Logan Hall. Yes, this was our school too. We were taught to believe that Tuskegee belonged to all of us. And to say that we were always the best dressed little girls at the state and district meetings is to just be, well, let's just put it this way. We knew we were the best dressed because she told us. And she gave us that Tuskegee swagger that we used when we walked into a room. To this day, I know how to dress appropriately and wear my pearls for any occasion. I eat anywhere at the finest banquets, and I feel comfortable. We all thought she had gone crazy when she had these stair steps built. She decided she would teach us how to walk up and down stairs. In fact, I challenged her. I said, Ms. Cunningham, you are simply wasting my time. She said, young lady, you will go to the White House one day and you need to know how to walk up and down stairs without looking at your feet. Well, I did go to the White House. And when I did those stairs, I walked just like Annie Ruth had taught me. However, I noticed a nice white lady with the most gorgeous formal gown I have ever seen in my life, looking at her feet as she ascended the stairs. I smiled and remembered Annie Ruth. Before she passed, I got a chance to tell her that story. Her husband also taught science, math, and shop. He was a home extension teacher. He knew the science of farming because he was a George Washington Carver student, but he could not set a plow. With him, is it still working? He brought with him the Carver belief that you could improve agricultural practices and thus the economic status of African Americans. My father, Howard, was a big farmer and knew nothing about scientific farming, but understood farming intuitively as a 9th grade dropout. Wilbur and Howard and my brother and the Stars and the Harps became Mr. Cunningham's field study. They made great crops, they made a lot of money, and they utilized the Tuskegee and Auburn University farming system. And in 1964, Mr. Cunningham's dream that one of his families would become the Farmer of the Year became a reality. Dr. L.H. Foster, president of Tuskegee Institute, awarded my family, the Howard D. Cowser family of Cherokee County, the Mary Farm Family Award for 1964 at the 74th Annual Farmers Conference. The honor was awarded for outstanding accomplishments in agriculture and community affairs, and the story appeared on the front page of the Negro Farmer, which was published by Auburn University and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I have a framed copy in my office that I look at occasionally, and I know the influence of the Tuskegee machine when it came to farming, and how we all understood how to become viable and sustainable farmers. My brother is still a farmer. He learned what he learned right here at Tuskegee. He is now a successful father of 4 college graduates. One is a dentist, one has a doctorate in physical therapy, and the others have several masters. As you can see, my family lives the Tuskegee legacy. Now, my sister graduated from high school in 1955 and was the valedictorian of her class, all 9 of them. She was the only girl. Miss Cunningham wrote her valedictorian speech by hand. There were 5 boys in the class who had just come back from the Korean conflict. My sister kept that speech to this day, and she read it to me on the phone last week. You see, Miss Cunningham was somebody. The title was, Knowledge is the Passport of Success. Through my sister, Annie Ruth spoke, and she argued that every student should become an individual in their own right. They should become self-determined individuals and cooperative individuals. And yet, in the middle of Brown versus the Board of Education, which had just been decided in 1954, and when the Alabama legislature was debating sending all you black people back to Africa, including me, she had the nerve to say that students should also be participating individuals, meaning they should sustain their own economic load, she said, and they should vote their own ticket. She was arguing for the right to vote in '55 through my sister. Those were hanging words, you know. Thus, in her own way, Ms. Cunningham instilled in us values and notions that we could live full and complete lives, and that an education was a passport to greater things. Now, just how did we turn out? How was the community transformed? Ms. Cunningham said it best when she received an award in December 2005 from the New Alabama Voters League Democratic Party. The program stated the follows: Mrs. Cunningham believes that her greatest accomplishments have come from the lives she's been able to touch with her work. She is most proud of her former students and who have led wonderful lives with the values and spirit that they learned under her caring tutelage. Such students included, she said, a former professional football player, city councilman, doctors, lawyers, civil rights leaders, a college president, me, and a director of child nutrition for a school district, my sister, just to mention a few. She stated that many homemakers had honed their craft in her classroom, and she felt blessed. Yes, we were all blessed to have Annie Ruth in our lives. In our list of notables, she stands in a space all of her own. She stands tall in our Hall of Fame because of the bridge she built to span the tide. She never allowed us to get bogged down in ordinariness and mediocrity. After all, she had a Tuskegee education, and she had that Tuskegee spirit. I often think of her when I remember the bridge builder, and I just want to read it for you quickly so you can remember that this is what she did. And just put she where I say he. The old man crossed in the twilight dim. The southern stream held no fear for him, but he turned when safe on the other side and built a bridge to span the tide. "Old man," said a young pilgrim near, "you are wasting your strength with building here. Your journey will end with the ending day, and you never again will pass this way. You crossed the chasm deep and wide. Why build a bridge at evening tide?" The builder lifted his old gray head. "Good friend, in the path I have come," he said, "there follows after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. The chasm that was as naught to me, to that fair-haired youth might a pitfall be. He too must pass in the twilight dim. Good friend, I am building this bridge for him." Now, what does all this mean? 20 years ago, I saw in Dr. Johnson what Annie Ruth Evans Cunningham saw in me. I attempted and I still try to mentor him formally and informally as I was mentored. Oprah Winfrey has said that a mentor is someone who allows you to see the hope inside yourself. But Booker T. Washington once said, if you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else. Yet I think Albert Schweitzer best describes my Miss Cunningham when he said, example is not the main thing influencing others. It is the only thing. It is the only thing. And indeed, she was an example. So graduates, my charge to you is as follows. Remember, you cannot build your own future without helping others to build theirs. You must be the Annie Ruth Evan Cunningham of your generation and be the example. You must support your alma mater with talent, service, and most of all, money. No thumping your chest without a check. We can pass the hat right now. Yes, whatever anger you have about standing in line, slow internet, bad food, let it go. Just let it go and pay it forward. That's right, just let it go. I quote the late Honorable Timothy B. Donaldson, a Fisk graduate and the first governor of the Central Bank of Nassau. He always told his classmates the following: you have received a Rolls-Royce education for the price of a Ford. Now, that statement also applies to you. You've received a Rolls-Royce education for the price of a Ford. I know you don't think that, but you will soon. That education has prepared you to go out and change the world and support Tuskegee University. Annie Ruth Cunningham lived a Tuskegee life. And in case you don't know what that is, I'm going to tell you one more time. It's a life of helping and developing others. She lived a life of service, giving back. According to the words found in Luke 12:48, to whom much is given, much shall be required. Martin Luther King once stated that life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And I would add, what are you doing for others, and what will you do to ensure and guarantee that Tuskegee and her progeny will not simply survive, but thrive for another generation of children? I want them to be able to come and dance to any song they want to dance to, like I danced to Harry Belafonte on the Tuskegee stage. Remember, Mother Tuskegee's destiny is in your hands, and I challenge you to continue her legacy and give your full support as you cheer on the next generation with your talent and your resources. Congratulations, and may God bless and keep you.